Hello and welcome to the social media update for June 2023. If you haven't joined one of these updates before, then just to let you know, this is your opportunity to get up to date with the latest social media news, trends, and ideas for your social media marketing. We deliver this workshop live every month for free to anybody around the world. So please do join, spread the word, and be part of our community. We're really enjoying running these workshops so far this year, and I hope you are too. And I very much welcome any of your feedback. So if you haven't joined one of these workshops before, then let me introduce myself. My name is Alison Battersby, and I am the founder of Avocado Social. And Avocado Social is 9 years old. Can you believe it? We'll be celebrating our 10th anniversary next year. We have been working in the social media game for 15 years. And Avocado Social was established as a way to help marketers approach their social media better. We've worked with a wide range of brands and organizations, from universities to healthcare brands. We do a lot of work in the hospitality, travel, restaurant industries, and work with food and drink brands too. So if you're interested to learn more about what we do at Avocado Social, then please do check out our website or feel free to get in touch directly with myself. So as I've mentioned, it's another busy month of key updates in social media. It is incredibly hard to stay on top of all of these updates. And as you can see, there's just tons going on. So I cherry pick the ones that I think are most relevant to my community, the ones that are hopefully going to affect the majority of us. But of course, there's always things happening in and around Meta, LinkedIn, TikTok on a daily basis. So it can be incredibly overwhelming. And that's one of the reasons why I launched these free updates every month, just to make sure that the advice that is out there, the updates that are out there are properly applied to your social media strategies. So I do like to start usually with a look at the latest social media stats. And if you've joined one of these workshops before, then you'll know that I am a huge fan of the digital report that is launched every month by a company called Meltwater and We Are Social. So they collaborate together on this report. You can find it just by Googling Digital 2023. So digital and the year. And actually, the last report that they pulled was in April. So if you were on last month's webinar, then you will have seen these stats. But I do think it is useful just to remind yourself every now and again which of the social media platforms are the most used globally. I've had a lot of conversations over the last few weeks about Twitter alternatives and emerging new social media apps, which is great and good to keep track of what's on offer. But I think it is important to always pull back to your original strategy and just understand where your target audience are spending their time online at the moment. So that is what I wanted to start with today, just a reiteration that you should always be approaching social media networks, which are the ones that are going to get you in front of the people that matter. That being said, I think it's interesting to see that looking in the kind of top 10, we've still got Facebook, YouTube, some of the original social media networks really leading the way continually. So a lot of the media headlines at the moment are around how Meta, that's Facebook, Instagram, and of course WhatsApp, is struggling to keep up with the newer platforms such as TikTok. But the stats perhaps tell us a different story in terms of active users. It's just the way that people are using these social media platforms differ. And I think it's been said many times, but people now on Facebook are far less likely to engage in public discussion. So if you do see a lack of comments or shares on your Facebook page, you are not alone. This is very much known behavior. And a lot of the behavior now is to engage in private, secure groups or messages. And that's where a lot of people are engaging in their conversation now. Okay, so let's jump onto our first big update, which is GA4. Now, if you haven't heard about GA4, then I'm not quite sure where you've been over the last few months, because it does seem to be a big headline at the moment, given that GA4 is actually launching in 2 days' time. It means that your Google Analytics dashboard is going to change. So if you are familiar with what's called Universal Analytics, which is the standard dashboard you use when you go to Google Analytics, then that will all change in 2 days' time. And actually, if you log in at the moment, you will see this big countdown. This basically means that the original GA dashboard is going to stop processing data in 2 days. So it will no longer be analyzing what's going on your website. And actually migrating across to the new platform is strongly recommended. If you haven't done this already, don't worry, you have definitely still got time, and it doesn't take that long to migrate. You've just got to make sure that you do go through each of the steps. If you log into Google Analytics and go to the GA4 Setup Assistant, it looks like this. It gives you a breakdown of everything that you need to do. And as you go through each step, you have to physically mark it as complete. So over on the right-hand side, you can see where it says not started next to the arrow. If you click on the arrow, you can actually mark things as complete. So for example, if you are using a Google Ads account, then you can link your new GA4 to your Google Ads and then mark it as complete. If you're not using Google Ads, then you can just simply mark that section as complete. So that's done. The things that are really important to do are to set up your conversions. Now, this is what Google is now calling events. So if you have certain events on your website that you're tracking in Google Analytics, these are now going to be called conversions, and you do have to reset them up in GA4. So typical events might be things such as somebody filling out a form on your website, somebody downloading a PDF or a brochure, perhaps someone watching a video, making a purchase, adding something to a basket, etc., etc. So anything tangible that somebody does on your website that indicates to you that they have converted is now a conversion. So do make sure you spend a moment setting those up. It's really useful to track these. And of course, this is what's going to help you understand how powerful your social media marketing is for your website and for activities on your website. Now, there has been a lot of negativity around GA4. I think it's human nature. We don't like change. We don't like getting to grips with new tools, especially when they are forced upon us. But I would say that having spent a little bit more time in Google Analytics GA4 in the last 2 weeks, I'm actually feeling quite positive and excited about the new change. And the main reasons are GA4 is going to allow us to not only see how people are moving through our website, but also it will give you far more data around how people engage with particular pages on your website. So things like how many people are scrolling down a page, how many people are moving their cursor over key events on your pages, how many people are spending time to actually read the text or watch the video. So we're going to be able to know all this juicy data about our landing pages that we just couldn't before. So GA4 is a more powerful tool, but in order to really get the most out of it, you do have to spend some time setting it up properly. One of the things that I'm a big fan of at the moment, as I'm sure many of you are, is AI. I'm a big fan because it does save time and makes your life easier. And I'm pleased to announce, if you haven't discovered this already, that GA4 has some really nice AI integrated into it. So the artificial intelligence available in GA4 allows you to automatically create reports with interesting stats. So let's just take a look at how you use the AI in GA4. This is the dashboard, which is showing us acquisition. So this acquisition dashboard, which you can access down the left-hand menu, is telling us how your website acquired traffic. You've got the same area where you choose your dates on the top right-hand side, and you can see how much traffic you've acquired, and then hopefully break that down by sources of that traffic. You can see here that the majority of traffic on my website comes through from an organic Google search. But if you cast your eye over to the top right-hand side there, you can see there is a little button called Insights. And that button allows you to set up some custom reports. And you can see there that Google is suggesting the questions that I should be asking about my web traffic. So the question that I was clicked on, or I was compelled to click on first, is on what days do I get the most users? And you can see that Google has put that together into a really nice answer for me there. Thursday seemed to be the most popular day last week. And you can keep going back to the suggested questions. And here you can find all kinds of questions around languages, countries, how your website's acquired traffic, where people are coming from, what days, what times, what technology they're using, so which browsers, which devices. You can just click on these questions and Google will put the answers in a report for you there. So I would suggest, if you haven't yet familiarized yourself with Google Analytics 4 and you're feeling a little bit apprehensive about it, come and have a look at the Insights tool, which you can find on the right-hand side, just with the graph with the Magic Sparkle logo. And that is a really nice starting point to starting to understand GA4. Now, I do meet the odd marketer who tells me, I think we've got Google Analytics set up, but I never look at it. And I would hope that that behavior is changing as we move into the second half of 2023, because GA4 is what's going to allow you to really start to understand the impact of your social media marketing campaigns. And particularly, it will be important for helping you to unlock future budget for your advertising campaigns, for your influencer campaigns, so that you can prove that social media really is helping to drive traffic to your website. Now, of course, social media isn't just about driving traffic to your website. It is far more around brand awareness and getting people to recognize your name, your logo, your products, your services. But this is a really good way of getting tangible data about the return on investment that you are making in social media, sorry. So moving on to the next slide, a lot of questions that I'm getting from clients at the moment are around how to make the switch. There are a ton of videos available on the Google help pages. You can actually just type into YouTube how to make the switch to Google Analytics 4, and there are step-by-step videos available for you. So do take a look at that. And as I've said, I would urge you to try and do this over the next few days if you can, just so that you don't have any gaps in your data. Because of course, if you don't then set up GA4 for a little bit of time, you will not get any data after Saturday, because that is when Google Analytics is stopping pulling data into the current analytics dashboard that we have. So hopefully I've made that quite clear, and that, I know it is, annoying to have another thing on our to-do list, but this is a big change that Google is really keen on integrating this year. And as hopefully I have explained, it is important to understand how social media is impacting on your website health. So on to our next update, which is company InMail on LinkedIn. So this was actually a trend that was predicted in our last update. I said that I'd heard a few rumors around this might be launching, and a couple of days after that, it did indeed launch. LinkedIn has launched and is currently rolling out globally the ability for company pages to have inboxes, private inboxes. Now, what this means at the moment is that LinkedIn members, so LinkedIn users, can reach out to companies via private message. Unfortunately, what this doesn't mean is that LinkedIn company pages can message people. You have to wait until somebody initiates the conversation with your company page before you can reply to them. At the moment, you currently can't message other company pages either. So it really is just waiting to see whether anyone messages you. Now, I haven't yet got any company pages that have this ability yet. I wonder if any of you do. Perhaps some of our friends over in the States do. It seems a little slow to launch here in the UK, but I'd be really interested to hear whether anyone has spotted this one yet. It looks like LinkedIn is prompting members to try and message companies around certain topics like service requests or demo requests. So they are steering members to perhaps be a little bit more considered around why they are contacting you. You can also switch that message button on and off. So something that you might find is that you are beginning to get maybe some sales pitches that you don't want to get. You could switch that off. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on and see how that pans out for your company page. Here's a little screenshot of how it should look. So this is just a screenshot that LinkedIn was sharing on their blog. So I'm not sure if this is a genuine company or not, or whether it's just an example company they have created. But you can see the message looks very much like a InMail, a personal InMail. But it would come through to your company page inbox. You would receive an alert and you'd be able to see exactly who sent you that message and respond accordingly. Something that I actually was asked by a client the other day is whether this now means companies can send out InMail campaigns. So for a few years, only individuals could send out paid for InMail messages. So that's where you set up a sponsored InMail campaign and you pay for messages to reach people's inboxes. So I spent a little bit of time investigating that over the last few days and actually noticed that quite quietly, LinkedIn had launched the ability for company pages to run InMail inbox message campaigns. So that is possible if you wanted to send some sponsored inbox messages to people. My thinking on that, my kind of opinion is that a lot of the time InMail campaigns where you receive a paid for message tend to be quite spammy and aren't generally received that well by people. I don't know if you agree with me, but I would perhaps recommend that you would try an alternative style of LinkedIn advertising. I'm running some LinkedIn video advertising campaigns at the moment and seeing some great success. So that is definitely something that I would strongly advise on if your audience is on LinkedIn. Sticking with the same theme of LinkedIn, just yesterday, LinkedIn released some algorithm tips which very much do focus LinkedIn's purpose on moving towards knowledge sharing and insight. Now, LinkedIn has been going this way over the last couple of years, particularly post-COVID. But I think these new algorithm changes really do reinforce the fact that if you're on LinkedIn and you want visibility, you have to be sharing valuable content to people. So let's talk a little bit more about how knowledge and insight can really help increase visibility on the platform. So the algorithm updates, which were announced just this week, are a response to a lot of user feedback that LinkedIn has been receiving over the recent years, that there is too much irrelevant and non-professional content now flooding feeds on the platform. And I would be inclined to agree. I'm a big fan of LinkedIn, but I think post-COVID, we have seen an influx of more Facebook style content, much more kind of, this is what I get up to at the weekend, or here's some pictures of my family. There's been a big merge of work and personal life content on the platform. And these are just some examples of posts that have been spotted over the last kind of year or so on LinkedIn. Because LinkedIn's algorithm looked to amplify the most engaging posts and reposts of viral content from other platforms, then basically feeds were beginning to be flooded with this style of content, which a lot of LinkedIn members feel quite angry about, because LinkedIn is meant to be the professional platform. That's its USP, and that's why people do tend to use LinkedIn over something like Facebook or Instagram. So LinkedIn has decided to update its algorithm, and the main updates that we're beginning to see is that LinkedIn is prioritizing content from your first degree connections. So when you log into LinkedIn now and you look through your news feed, you're most likely to see content from people who you are already connected to. So that is a big change, because previous to that, a lot of content was being fed in that was maybe second level connections, or perhaps just people who were talking about topics that you were maybe following hashtags for. So LinkedIn says that users regularly tell them that the most valuable content comes from people they know. So users are now going to see more updates from direct connections and users that they follow. So if you are a creator profile and you are looking to attract more followers, don't worry, the updates are still going to help your content get seen in the newsfeed. So LinkedIn is also looking to really highlight expert content and advice. And this is something that has been happening over the last few years, but this is probably the most official update that LinkedIn has made that will really start to make sure we are seeing content that is relevant to our specific interests on the platform. So the system is now looking to identify each user's interests. This will be based on your profile information, what you click on, what you engage with, what you watch. And if other members within your niche are engaging with your posts, that's a very strong signal that you're sharing material that people are finding relevant and valuable. So the first thing is, you want to make sure that you are sharing relevant content to your niche. That's really, really important. And secondly, that you're able to build engagement from relevant people within your niche. So that would be likes, comments, reactions, shares, saves. More in-depth replies and conversation will also help to improve your reach. So we'll talk about that in just a moment, but here are some examples from two people that I follow on LinkedIn that I really rate if you're looking to follow marketing and social media up-to-date advice. On the left, we've got Mark Ritson, who I'm sure many of you follow already, who is a prolific media commentator and marketing professor. He shares probably one or two really in-depth updates every week on the platform and starts some very relevant debates and discussions around what's happening in the world of marketing. And over on the right is Sophie Miller, founder of Pretty Little Marketer, who I think shares some really interesting case studies. You know, everybody is talking about Barbie at the moment. I think they've done an absolutely fantastic job of building hype ahead of the film's release. And the latest thing they've done is, of course, put the Barbie Malibu Dream House on Airbnb, which I think was a fantastic digital campaign and has definitely grabbed tons of headlines. This Barbie Dream House seems to be in all my feeds at the moment. So I'm sure the movie is going to perform incredibly well this summer. So they are two people that I think share some really interesting, valuable, up-to-date and relevant content for their niches. And the other thing is that they respond to all of the comments on their posts. and are really good at responding with not just kind of one word, thanks for the comment, replies, but moving that conversation on and, building on that conversation by asking more questions. And that is what the algorithm also wants to see. So you can see here that Matt Navarra, who again is another fantastic person to follow on LinkedIn for social media industry updates, and he shared this LinkedIn algorithm news this week. Somebody posted, thanks for sharing, in the comments, and he said, this comment won't be ranked well by LinkedIn's algorithm because this is exactly the sort of comment that LinkedIn doesn't really want to see, that carbon copy, thanks for sharing, generic terminology. They would rather see, a thoughtful response, something that is a little unique, and something that Matt then responds to back. So thinking about this, not only for your personal brand, but also for your company pages. If you are thinking about increasing engagement on your company page on LinkedIn, I would really suggest responding to every comment, trying to move the conversation forward as well. And of course, trying to generate as much engagement from people who are within your niche. Finally, the more you share on LinkedIn, the better. LinkedIn will theoretically be able to understand more about who you are, what you do, and who wants to see your posts, the more content you feed it. I've seen a lot of people sharing updates recently on LinkedIn about how they've hacked the system, hacked the algorithm, and what they've managed to achieve over 6 weeks of posting consistently. And the tip that I see people share more than anything on LinkedIn is post regularly. So try and get something fresh out there on LinkedIn, ideally daily if you can, but I know that is really, really hard. I certainly don't manage to hit that, but being able to share some insight, a news story, a case study, a photo, I think that would be a really good way of approaching LinkedIn. If you want to know more, then do check out the Social Media Today article, which shared all of this just yesterday. I'm going to pop that in the chat now. So look out for that link where you can find out a bit more about this update. I know a couple of you have been asking some questions, so I will be answering those at the end of the update. Okay, so one of the other big questions I've been asked a lot about recently is Twitter. What's going on with Twitter? What are the competitor options out there available? I think the first thing to note is that, we did see a big buzz around alternative or competitors to Twitter, particularly with things like Blue Sky being invite only. There was a big rush to get a profile on Mastodon as well. But the main thing that I'm spotting is that people who are using these alternative Twitter options still tend to be sending content to both Twitter and their alternative. So I don't see a mass exodus on Twitter at the moment. In fact, if you look at some big cultural events that have happened recently, for example, Glastonbury, a lot of conversation still existed on Twitter. It was still a huge place for consumers, media folk, journalists, etc., to go and engage. So I don't think the death of Twitter is going to happen this year, which is what many people predicted. Until some of the major influencers leave Twitter, I don't think we'll see the mass leave. So there are still lots of celebrities, media, and politicians using Twitter actively. But I think the key thing that you should be keeping an eye on is your stats. So have you lost followers? Have you lost impressions on your tweets? If those two things are happening, then I would suggest you do need to really keep a close eye on whether your audience is still using Twitter. Let's talk a minute about the competitors. Mastodon, which is the decentralized social network with 10 million members now. So You compare that to Twitter, which is 290 million, that obviously it's a huge difference. It does tend to be the kind of tech and media influencers who are on Mastodon. It's quite a complicated, well, I say complicated. I personally don't love the UX of Mastodon. I find it, a little bit tricky to navigate. Let me know what you think. So I haven't really been using it, to be honest. Everything on Mastodon is hosted on servers, so different servers, which are run by communities, which means basically the whole infrastructure is kind of run by the people. It's not owned by one specific company. And each of those servers will have its own kind of community guidelines as well. I don't think that we will see ads on Mastodon. That's something that the person that created it has said, don't really think it's meant for that. But if people want to create ads on their servers, that is up to them. So it's very much decentralized in that the main decisions over how it's going to look and feel are coming down to the people who are running each particular server. The other big one is, of course, Bluesky. Bluesky is a lot smaller than Mastodon. At the moment, it's still on invite only. I set up myself on Bluesky last month, barely used it since, I must admit. Looks very similar to Twitter. And I've noticed, a lot of people are just repurposing tweets there as well. So for the way I use Twitter and what I want out of it, I'm not really seeing much of a need to go to these competitors, but you might find some really niche networks that do exist on the competitors, like Bluesky and Mastodon. And it's good just to kind of keep an eye on the way that these are going. Bluesky, so this is a little bit of a look at Bluesky. It is also decentralized, much like Mastodon. It allows users to share short text updates through different providers instead of a huge central one. So basically, if you start to create content on Bluesky, you can also share that content and cross-promote it on other social networks as well. Bluesky is second in popularity only to Mastodon. And the app has, created a large bit of hype, I think mainly thanks to its Twitter co-founder and former CEO Jack Dorsey being in charge of it. The app has around 50,000 registered users globally, so that's not really a huge amount, but it has been downloaded more than 375,000 times. So a lot of people are downloading it, but not really then using it or signing up to it, which I think very much mirrors my behavior of getting set up and then not using it. So there isn't really this huge need for an alternative at the moment. But of course, a lot of that comes down to your target audience and what they require from you as a business. The other big update, which has been shared over the last couple of weeks, is guess what? Instagram is launching a Twitter competitor. So I'm not really sure why, but they do obviously see an opportunity here for text-based conversation. So this is a new text-based app, which Instagram is launching as a standalone app, currently being referred to internally as Project 92. It actually hasn't been officially announced, but these screenshots were leaked. It's rumored that the app's name might be Threads, which is quite interesting because Twitter has Twitter Threads within it, so it might get a bit complicated. But apparently this is something that Instagram has been working on since January and is set to launch this summer. So it will be interesting to see if people do uptake on this competitor. You can quickly build your audience, so you can allow anyone to follow it allows anyone to follow the same accounts that they follow on Instagram, just in kind of like one tap, which is quite useful. And this is going to be much more kind of regulated around safety. which of course Twitter isn't so much at the moment. So it seems like they are kind of pitting themselves as a more safe version of Twitter. So we'll see how that one pans out. I'm sure it will be spoken about in our next monthly update, but that is Instagram's new Twitter-like text app, which could be here as soon as July. So I wanted to talk again about Reels. I know last month we were talking about the editing tools that have come onto Reels in recent months, but Reels across Instagram and Facebook has really been a point of focus to drive growth and revenue for Meta in the last few quarters. In fact, during Q1, Mark Zuckerberg said that time spent on Instagram is up 24%. So people are spending people are spending more time, 24% more time on Instagram, and that is all down to Reels. So Reels really is their kind of absolute shining star of a product at the moment across Facebook and Instagram. So what are the new features that they have brought out regarding Reels then? Well, probably the most interesting and useful, I think, for social media managers is the ability now to download a Reel. So you can download any public Reel. So there will be a download button that will appear. All you need to do is click on the share button on a Reel that you see publicly. You can then see at the bottom of that, you can add it to your story, you can share it, you can copy the link, or you can download the Reel. So you might be surprised that you couldn't do this already. You could only download your own Reels, and you would do that from your drafts. That would download the video to your camera roll where it would save without a watermark. This new feature will add a watermark to the video. You can see it ever so slightly on the right-hand side of the video there. There is a little Instagram logo and the username also appears. But I think this is incredibly useful for things like gathering examples. You know, if you are coming up with a pitch for Reels ideas for, internally, or, you're presenting perhaps to a client, being able to download Reels rather than doing kind of screen records, I think will be a great tool. Also, if you are wanting to download a Reel that you have already created and maybe share it somewhere else, although I don't think this is probably the best way of doing it. If you are sharing a Reel across Instagram and Facebook, you should really be doing that with the automated tools already inbuilt within Instagram, where you can instantly share across to Facebook as well. If you do want to put a Reel over onto your TikTok, then of course this is a good way to do it, but it will have that Instagram watermark on it. So that's just something to bear in mind. I guess the key reason why they've done this, why they've added the watermark, is to discourage cross-platform sharing. There've been quite a lot of studies I've read recently that are suggesting that you don't put Reels on TikTok just because they are quite different audiences, quite different platforms, and it doesn't necessarily mean that your content will work if you are just cross-promoting it across both. But as with anything, worth a test sometimes. The other new tools that we are seeing across Reels are audio trim. So this is one of the new tools that they have inbuilt into their editor. The new Reels editor is so much easier than previous editing available, and so I'd really recommend having a look at it. They're just making it so much easier to trim things just by gliding your finger forwards and backwards, replacing things very easily. Last month we spoke about some of the new tools, including Split, which I'll come on to in just a moment. The other new one is they're making it a lot easier to control audio volume. So just sliding that up and down. And obviously, if you've got different audios going on at the same time, like a voiceover, and you've got a music track, then that will appear very, very easily on top of each other in that audio section of the editor. I spoke about some updates that are currently being rolled out globally. Those are split, speed, and replace. So those are 3 different options available in the new editor. My advice, just get to grips with the new editor. Just have a little go at editing a few videos, perhaps personally, or saving things as drafts, and take a look at, how easy it is becoming. All of those features are also now available on Facebook Reels. So I would say most of the brands that I'm working with are using the strategy of, if they create a reel on Instagram, it's also just going across on Facebook automatically. And I think that's fine. But if you do tend to have a larger audience on Facebook than Instagram, or perhaps you don't even use Instagram, then knowing that these tools are available within Reels on Facebook is interesting as well. Also, I was quite excited to see this update last week, which was that Facebook now has Reels templates. So Reels templates are one of my favorite tools on Instagram, because they are pre-made, almost like done for you Reels that you just replace media with your own. And this option is now available on Facebook too. So if you are creating some Reels on the Facebook app, take a moment just to look at the templates tab there, where you can see some pre-existing templates that you can literally just drop your photos or videos into. And then final Facebook update is the Inspiration Hub. So I'm still waiting for my Inspiration Hub to go live on Instagram, but this is something which Meta has created for both Facebook and Instagram to help get you inspired about what kind of Reels content you could create. So it shows you things like trends, the most popular hashtags, topics, and music. But as I said, I'm still waiting for mine to roll out on Instagram. So I'd imagine that this is just in the pipeline and rolling out globally at the moment on Facebook too. So this was quite an interesting one that I read about this week, sponsored communities. Now, we know on TikTok that communities are really, really useful ways of spreading awareness and creating relevant content for your audiences. TikTok communities are basically hashtags that are incredibly popular on TikTok, like book talk, for example, or beauty talk, or clean talk. So if you are creating a beauty video or a cleaning video, just adding that word, food talk, at the end of your video as a hashtag will enable you to reach a far larger community. Now, TikTok is on the lookout for advertisers to sponsor these existing huge communities. So they're looking for advertisers to sponsor hashtags that are already trending amongst their users. Now, in the past, advertisers would have to create their own content to associate with trending topics like book talk or clean talk, but now they are able to officially link to these viral moments for a price, of course. So I suppose this is very similar to sponsoring a trend on Twitter. You can sponsor an existing community. You would sponsor it for a certain amount of time, and that sponsorship will allow you access to a large amount of insight and also visibility. So the first advertiser that TikTok have managed to secure is none other than Unilever. And Unilever will be sponsoring Clean Talk, which is one of their biggest communities on TikTok, which has 81 billion views. And they're going to be sponsoring Clean Talk for 40 weeks across 10 different markets, including the UK, Turkey, Vietnam, until January next year. So this will include co-created content through various series, which will tap into TikTok global trends. And also they will have a dedicated Clean Talk Awards, which will celebrate the most helpful and engaging content creators within the community. So I'm quite interested to see how this one plays out and how we see some big advertisers sponsoring these existing communities. Perhaps it's one, not necessarily relevant for you specifically to sponsor, but just useful to know that this is the way in which TikTok is going, and reiterates the importance of these existing communities on the channel. Let's talk about the TikTok Creator Center, which I think rears its head into our updates every month. There are some new tools within the Creative Center, so do cast your eye on those. They are the Creative Tips Finder and the Top Ads Spotlight. So I've been having a look at some of these new trends and new kind of tools that are inbuilt into this dashboard. It's free to access this. You just need a login. So if you're interested in improving your TikTok content and also thinking about TikTok advertising, then I would really strongly urge you to have a login for the TikTok Creative Center. Just Google it and you can set up a login. In the Creative Tips Finder, there are lots of different tips on creating better content on TikTok. This is specifically related to ads, but I think can be applied to organic content as well. So there's some really useful tips in here. Sound on is a really good way of grabbing attention. Also really making an impact within the first 2 and 2.5 seconds. TikTok audiences watch entertaining ads for 1.3 times longer than ads that don't have entertainment value. So just some useful pointers here. So if you are thinking about creating some ad content for TikTok, it's worth having a look at this. And the other thing that they have launched is the Top Ads Spotlight. So they're actually spotlighting now the best performing ads on the platform, giving you a little bit of insight around why these ads work particularly well, what kind of budget they're using, and how many likes they've achieved as well, which is quite interesting. I'd have thought they'd have gone for views rather than likes, but you can dig a little bit deeper into these by clicking See Analysis. So all of that is available completely for free. So if you are interested in creating better content for TikTok, then do go and have a look at these free tools. So our penultimate update is around Meta Verified. So one of the big announcements this week is that Meta Verified, which is paying for the tick on the platform, is now being rolled out globally. So it originally launched back in February and was being tested in Australia and New Zealand first, but they must have had some good success with it because it's now going global. It basically means paying users will get a verified blue check mark on Facebook and Instagram, along with dedicated account support. So I think that for me is the most interesting of the features, is that you will get a person at Facebook or Instagram to actually respond to your queries and issues that you're having. There are some other features as well, but those are the most interesting, and they are costing that at $14.99 US. That's $11.99. $14.99 when purchased via your app store, but it's a little bit cheaper if you purchase it via desktop. So do go and kind of have a look at that if you are interested. I've followed a few creators that have upgraded to Meta Verified and are so far saying that they're enjoying it so far, that they are, getting good support from the team. And also, that having the check mark is really important for them. I haven't seen any brands use it yet, so I will keep you posted on that. So far, it's just creators. But I think it's one of those things just to be aware of and kind of keep an eye out for on the platform. And then I always like to kind of end on maybe a bit of a light-hearted update or something that you could perhaps have a go at. I get asked a lot of the time by our members and clients, what trends are you spotting on Reels or TikTok? What could we have a go at next month? So I thought I'd include that today and start to include that on a monthly basis. And the one that I'm seeing a lot on TikTok at the moment is Sade's song Smooth Operator, and there is a bit of a remix music track going around, which I'm about to play you. So Smooth Operator, which has been around for a while, but I think it's kind of getting a little bit of a resurgence, is a great music track to add on TikTok. It is available for businesses as well. If you use the song, which is by, let me tell you the name, Enzo is Burning. Enzo is Burning is the music track, and it's had 280,000 uses. If you go on to CapCut, which if you're using TikTok, I would really strongly advise you download CapCut for templates and editing, as well as ideas for inspiration. There is a really useful account to follow called Tips for Creators. And here you can actually find a template that exists called Smooth Operator Trending Sound Template. So you can search for that on CapCut, which is completely free to do, and you will find this template. And you'll be able to see when I play it to you in a moment that it's really easy to be able to drop in your own video and photo clips that are in time to the music. So let's have a really quick look at the Smooth Operator song. No need to promise these are smooth. So hopefully you spotted there that the beginning of the clip is, you know, a longer photo or video, and then as the remix hits in, as the drop beat, the beat drops even, you can see that you flip between lots and lots of different clips in quick succession. So I think that's a really good template to have a go at. And you can see that 55,000 people have used that template from CapCut. You can see that figure down at the bottom there. And it's completely free to access as well. So if you don't know CapCut, then do download it and take a moment to explore, because it's a really great place to go for trends inspiration. Okay, so I've come to the end of today's update. I can see we've got a little bit of time left for a few questions, so I'm just going to get to those now. But if you do want to find out a little bit more about what we do at Avocado Social, please do access our website. We have a Facebook group, which is for follow-up questions and ongoing conversation around social media, which you're very welcome to join. You can find that just by searching for the Avocado Social Media Hub on Facebook, and the link is there in Bitly as well. And I hope to see you all on next month's update as well.